With the college football season ending, it's time to start looking ahead to the NFL draft. And Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are expected to be some major players in the upcoming draft.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast, so make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Joining me today is Locked On NFL Drafts, Damian Parson, and Bleacher Report's Damian Parson. Damian, we have some interesting draft picks to talk about, or prospects, excuse me, because I think there's a real possibility that two guys from the same team who are somehow the most popular yet most hated on players in college football, they could each go number one overall, and they happen to play for Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes, and it's Shedeur and Travis. Let's start off by just talk to me about how exciting it is to see two players from the same team that's not a traditional team of this magnitude be in the draft.
Man, I mean, from a draft standpoint, if you're a team, well, you look for culture guys. You look for game-changing guys who can come in your locker room and be who they need to be in the locker room, but also be leaders on the field and play at a high level. And Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter epitomize that, right? Going from Jackson State, rolling from the HBCU level, coming up to Colorado, a team that prior to them getting there won one or two games or whatever it was the year before. They won 4 last year, and to be able to get to bowl eligible and nearly make it to the Big 12 championship game, if it wasn't for that loss to Kansas, these guys helped change the culture. When you think about what you go back to those Patriot teams, the Patriot way with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, the only reason why everybody else was able to buy in is because the number one star in Tom Brady, the quarterback, bought in. So when Coach Prime is talking and he has Shedeur, and whether it's him getting on Shedeur for not doing something correctly, and the other players see how he handles, how Shedeur respects his dad, listens to his coach, things of that nature, Travis treating him like a father and listening to him as well, that resonates with the rest of the team. But when Coach Prime speaks, everyone is listening and they're attentive. These two guys, they're going to help an NFL team's culture. And I think that's going to be one of the bigger, more underrated impacts from both of them.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of funny you mentioned the Patriot way, because now it's got to be the North Carolina Tar Heel way pretty soon here. I think the thing that always stood out to me when watching those two is they seemed very coachable. And even Shedeur would be on the sidelines. They'd pan to him getting chewed out by a wide receiver. And he's just sitting there going, nodding along, going, yeah. And then after the receiver was done, he would explain his piece. And then Travis, I think when you play both ways, obviously you get a lot of glory. But I feel like Travis put in the work, right? He went on, I think it was Big Noon at one point, and during Colorado's bye, and he talked about his week. And it was he wakes up at, say, 4:30, gets to school early so he could do treatment and stuff. And then he's going to practice. And then after he's done with all the team-oriented stuff in school, he's watching 10 hours of film by himself. So these guys obviously understand the grind and they understand what it takes to be the number one pick. But with that being said, which one of them will be the number one pick? According to a recent mock draft, Shedeur Sanders, and I'll just read you the top 5 because they're both in it. They have the Raiders with the number one pick in this draft, which we're recording this on Thursday. This episode will be going up on Monday, so obviously this could change. But right now the Raiders are in pole position to get the top pick. They have them going Cam Ward, then Shedeur Sanders to the Giants, and then Travis Hunter to, ironically, the Patriots. So where do you see these guys going, and where do you see the best fits for each one?
If the draft order stays that way, like how it is right now, the Raiders at 1, Giants at 2, and Patriots at 3, I think that mock draft is a little off. I think Shedeur goes first overall, and I think he goes to the Raiders. And it's the simple fact of Shedeur has a good arm, right? Of course, Cam Ward has the better arm of the two. It's the connection. Tom Brady is one of the new owners in Las Vegas, right? You saw the owner, I think it was Mark Davis, at the Las Vegas Aces game earlier this summer, talking to Shedeur Sanders or whatever, talking to him about, man, no, he watches him play, things of that nature. I think it all lines up for Shedeur to come in and bring a level of calmness to that quarterback situation, a guy that can bring the accuracy, the ball placement, and the off-script playmaking that neither Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell will be able to make. And because of the fact that half of your games will be inside a dome, where it's like, hey, we've seen him throw in that cold weather in Colorado. I think he'll have much more success throwing in the dome where you take the elements out of it all, right? And because he doesn't have that elite arm like a Josh Allen and Mahomes, like you putting him in that control. We see, like, for example, Jared Goff has a good arm, but we'll never say he has an elite arm. But you seen Jared Goff literally ball out in domes, right? I think Shedeur's arm reminds me a little bit of Deshaun Watson's arm, where it's like good arm, they can give you velocity, everything like that, push the ball down the field, but their passes are going to have a little bit more loft on it, a little bit more touch and arc on it. And I think putting them in Vegas, man, with Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, and that offense, and then you go ahead and continue to add pieces to it. I think that's really the best thing for Shedeur in my situation, in my honest opinion. Yes, he's used to the bright lights and everything, but I think the Raiders is the best situation for him in that regard, because I think Tom Brady, who's his mentor, being there, being a part of that brain trust, being a part of that ownership team, he's going to make sure that they do right by Shedeur. He's not going to, hey, we need to allocate our money correctly. Is the offensive line fine? Okay, the offensive, and this is a guy who knows what a good offensive line looks like for a pocket passer, right?
Anyone would know.
If anybody would know, it's TB12. So you want him to be able to assess the situation, say, okay, hey guys, Mark Davis, GM, whoever, let's allocate this money to some free agent wide receivers. Let's go get a T. Higgins. Let's go do this, do that. Let's go ahead and make the right decisions to prepare Shedeur to walk in with a robust unit of weapons. And I think in that situation, then you put Cam Ward in New York, where his arm talent to whiz through the swirling winds in MetLife Stadium and throwing with, Malik Neighbors and those receivers, I think that's a better fit for him. And Travis, to me, right there at 3 to the New England Patriots. I think the New England Patriots putting Travis Hunter to the New England Patriots, they already have their cornerback room is technically fine, so they don't really need him to play corner. Like they have Christian Gonzalez, Alex Austin, who's a friend of mine, who good player, just underrated guy to play good ball in college, and he's been making plays for him ever since he was signed to them. If you want Travis to play corner, fine. I mean, hey, I'm not going to tell you not to, because he's one of the best corners in college football. But I think the fact that they have such a big need at wide receiver, and putting this type of athlete, a guy that has that knowledge of receiver and cornerback, he understands, okay, for example, watching him at the line of scrimmage, reading the body language of a corner who's in press alignment, and he can tell in his mind, all right, his weight, his foot, his inside foot's back, like he's putting more weight on. All right, he's about to press bail me. He's about to bail out of here. He's discovered 3 more than likely, and now he knows how to adjust his route based on what he's seeing. That level of intellect and knowledge is paramount, because most receivers have to study a guy's tape to figure that stuff out. Travis already plays the position, so he knows the technical aspects of playing corner. So putting him there, they have Jalen Polk, Keyshawn Boutte, Pop Douglas. They have some solid pieces. Javon Baker, who they drafted at UCF last year, putting a Travis Hunter with Drake May, that explosiveness, the long speed, the ball skills are like the leaping ability. They're all incredible, like top tier, like top shelf type of athleticism. Putting him in that offense will give them a wide receiver 1. And for me, I look at Travis Hunter, and like I said, either way, I think he's an all-pro corner. I think he's a Pro Bowl level receiver. Either way, you're getting an instant playmaker to your team.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Travis Hunter too is, I think whatever team drafts him, at least at first, is going to try to figure out a way to do the both ways thing. I don't think it's going to be like as often as it is in college, because I know Deion Sanders has a theory of it's slower in the NFL, so like slower paced games, so they'll be able to do it. But we'll see that when we get there. My last question before we move on to the biggest question of all about Travis Hunter, what world do you see him going number 1? Because I have a theory where Travis Hunter is probably a number 1 pick caliber player, but we live in a society where this is a quarterback, offensive tackle, defensive end that's a defensive end, or those positions. That's their spot. So if a team, say the Patriots, for some reason get the number 1 pick, would they just trade back 2 spots and let whoever's behind them trade up and then take Travis anyway and also get draft compensation?
That'll probably be their plan. That's their hope, right? Yeah. Like, it's like, hey, if Raiders, Giants, you want a quarterback, like Tennessee Titans right now benching Will Levis in Tennessee, like they have the 6th pick. The Cleveland Browns at 7, they need a quarterback. Heck, right. The Jets, the whole Aaron Rodgers fiasco. What's happening there that no one knows? So there's multiple teams that you can. If the Patriots are on the clock and they have the first overall pick, they're not even waiting for calls. They're calling teams. Yeah. Just say, hey, if you want a quarterback, we're selling. We'll sell this first overall pick. We'll move down a couple spots. Send us, we swap first. Send us next year's first, next year's second. Give us a third as well this year. They're going to try and get the farm for that pick. But if they can't get what they want and they stand pat, that is the team. Them, or because when you look at the draft order right now, the wins, losses, there's a clump of teams from 3 to 7 that all have their records right now, as I said, going into this weekend, are 3-11. Jacksonville, New England, Carolina, Tennessee, and Cleveland. And I think with either of those teams, right? Like, I can see the Panthers losing out, getting that first overall pick. I don't think the Giants will win another game. I don't think the Giants are trying to win another game. But if that happened, and if the Giants and the Raiders both fell down a little bit because they won a game or two to close out the season, these teams are going to try and trade back. So it's multiple opportunities for teams to trade out of that first overall spot to allow a quarterback to go. But if a team like New England or Jacksonville can't get the draft compensation they want, I think both would be very happy, especially Jacksonville. They have a need at corner, and they have Brian Thomas Jr., who's their number 1 wide receiver. I think for Trevor Lawrence's sake, if you throw Travis Hunter with BTJ, that's a dynamic, explosive, ball-winning duo that really gives him that. I think it can bring you back to that Clemson Trevor Lawrence, where that deep ball, push the ball down the field, get the run game going, keep defenses honest, 2 high safety looks 80% of the snaps, rather instead of having single high, trying to blitz them, you want to get pressure on them. It's like, listen, I will throw this ball down the field. I will uncork that 60-yard bomb to Travis or the BTJ. So I think there's a slight chance that he could be a first overall pick. It's going to be more of a situation of, can we get out of it to get the draft compensation and still get Travis?
Yeah, and I think Trevor would probably love Travis. I think Trevor himself is probably tired of seeing those mixtapes of, it's like 5 minutes long every time, and it's just receivers dropping passes. It's like, I've never seen a quarterback have such an extensive, like, they're always 5 minutes long. It's never like 3 plays. It's like dot, drop touchdown, dot, drop first down. And it's like, okay, people forget that Trevor Lawrence was like one of the like guys. Like, that was a prospect that was drawing like Andrew Luck, John Elway comparisons, and like, I don't think we've seen that. And part of it, I'm not going to say it's not his fault, but he had Urban Meyer, and then he's had some struggles himself, and then his receivers outside of Brian Thomas, like you said, not ideal in the pass catching department. So when we come back, we're going to be talking about the biggest question that pertains to Travis Hunter, which is, what position will he play? This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by Rocket Money. Let me tell you about Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about, or you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps lower your bill so you could grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is a subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. I had a subscription to a random newspaper that I hadn't read in years, didn't even know about it. Plus, with their goals features, I've been able to automatically set aside money for the future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Got a wedding coming up. Got to save some money. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs, joined by Damian Parson of Locked On NFL Draft and Bleacher Report. He's our NFL draft savant, and so I'm going to give him the hardest question there is possible when it comes to the NFL draft, which is, what position does Travis Hunter play in the NFL, right? I'll give you three options, and we could touch on each of them. Does he go both ways, and they kind of package him here and there? Is he a predominant wide receiver mixed in at corner, or is he a predominant corner mixed in a receiver?
Ideally, so I've thought about this a few times, and I was like, I feel like Travis wants to play both sides when he gets into the league. He does. I don't think he wants to let that go. Right. Now, the thing is, how do you finesse that situation with NFL decision makers who said, listen, we want to be able to let you play to your maximum talent and offer you multi-million-dollar contracts after your first 4 years. One thing about the NFL owners, money talks. Money is everything to them. They don't want to spend if there's a chance of you getting hurt, right? So especially with the mileage that he's played the last 2-3 years college football. So I think for right now he's playing average of 120, 130 snaps a game.
Yep.
I think the best way to be able to do that and finesse that where he gets to play both sides is you draft him to be your number one corner or one of your top two corners, right? One or two, doesn't matter. If you're New England, you draft him to be your number one corner. And you are in a situation, and let's say New England signs a T. Higgins, so you don't need him as a wide receiver 1. You could bring him as your wide receiver 3, and he could play 20 snaps a game, 20 to 25 on offense, and playing 60, maybe 70 snaps defensively, and that keeps him under the 100 play threshold, right? So that's saving his body, that's saving you the anxiety of him potentially getting hurt, and it's just limited, right? It's not, hey, you're playing full-time corner and then go to the sideline, take a breather, and then go right back on the field for wide receiver and offensive snaps, where we could play you at corner, you come to the sideline, what package are we in? Oh, we're in 12. You're sitting right over here. Travis, you're right here with us. When we go to 11, when we go to 10 and we go spread, then we throw you out there as that third or fourth wide receiver, and we get you some plays, we get some packages called for you and allow you to make plays. Because you want that athleticism, the ball skills, the route running. One of the most underrated parts of his game is, I talk about this with him. He plays like a punt and kick returner with the ball in his hands. He's very good in tight, confined spaces where you see those punt returners be able to make a guy miss, get skinny through a lane, really be able to find and feel their way to daylight. He does the same thing. I always go back to that play. I think was it the first game last year? No, maybe the second game, Nebraska, where he catches the ball in the middle of the field, jukes two defenders, they run into each other and different things like that. He did that a couple times this year as well in the quick game. And it's not, because you got to be able to be functional and effective in the quick passing game. So I think that's probably the best way to do it. I think the other way is, you play him at full-time corner, especially, it really depends, because if you're a team, you look at the teams that could potentially draft him, right? If you're a team that has a legit wide receiver room, you don't need him at wide receiver. Yeah, again, you could create that package, but you want him and you need help at corner. No, I need you to play corner. I need you to play corner. You know what I mean? If Jacksonville goes and gets T. Higgins, who's a former teammate and target favorite of Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, and now you got T. Higgins, maybe bring back Christian Kirk, and you have Brian Thomas Jr., and those tight ends they have, you really won't even need a package truly for Travis. What you want is now Travis to be your top corner or one of your top two corners, take the ball away, play legitimate cornerback. For him, I'm excited to see him as a pro football player because I want to see him develop at one position. I want to see him just truly develop. I'm talking about, okay, you gave up a catch for a touchdown the last drive, have short memory, go to the sideline, actually be able to look at the Microsoft Surface tablet, see where it went wrong, and then, go out there and lock down your competition the next time. Or if you're playing wide receiver, right? Okay, I got jammed up on that last rep. What happened? What was his alignment? Where did I go wrong? And it's because he's improved. That's one thing I noted down. We did a piece, me and one of our fellow scouts, he's a DB scout over at Bleacher Report, Corey Giddens. Shout out to my guy Corey. Me and him did a combo piece on talk about Travis as a receiver and a corner. I took the receiver angle. He took the cornerback angle. Go check that out at bleacherreport.com. And it was a thing for me. It's like I appreciate the growth with his release package. When he's playing against press man coverage, he has more than just a one-step jab, foot fire, and speed release outside. He's added the skip and walk release. He's being more patient because when you're that quick twitch and that sudden, DBs don't know how to handle you when you're not going full speed. They don't know which way you're going to break. They don't know how to defend you, especially if their lines square you up. They're squaring you up in alignment. So I think that the position that best fits him, I think it's the first option. You play him at both. I'm drafting to be a full-time corner. Give him anywhere from 15 to 20 plays a game at wide receiver. No special team stuff. I'm not adding anything else to. I need you offense and defense. That's it. And again, I think that's what you do, or you play him at full-time corner based on it. Really depends on your receiver and your quarterback room. Again, if you're good at corner, play him at receiver.
Yeah. I think it's a good problem to have. I think a couple things I wanted to address. First of all, I think if I were Travis, I'd want to be a predominant receiver that dabbles in corner because of the money, right? Because receivers, they're getting fatter contracts. They have a longer lifespan in the NFL than the average corner, I would say. And I think as a corner, it's easier to be like replaced in a way. Like receivers, we've seen Larry Fitzgerald have long-standing careers. We've seen, obviously he's not the size of Megatron, but Calvin Johnson had a decent career, a great career for how long he played. And like, it just seems more likely that if he were a receiver that dabbled in corner, he'd make more money, probably have a longer career. Whereas if he's a corner, I don't know if they're going to be like, okay, you're past your prime as a corner, time to move you to receiver. Like, I don't feel like that's a thing that NFL teams will do. And two, I think, and it's interesting to me because I feel like the biggest debate around Travis is like, is he good enough at receiver? And you mentioned earlier that you saw him as an all-pro corner, Pro Bowl receiver, and then guys like Richard Sherman called him bland as a receiver. So clearly, I think the edge, and there was an anonymous GM's survey the other day. I think it was like last week came out. It was like 13 GMs, and they all said that they see him as a corner. So I think Travis has an interesting decision to make because I think he has to feel like he makes the decision, right? I feel like it's a little different than if an NFL team drafts him and says, hey, you're not playing receiver. Like, I feel like he needs to have at least some sort of say in it, and it depends on the team, right? So I'd be really interested to see how that works out for him. I think him and his agents and his team, I feel like they need to have a plan. Like, you can't just show up and be like, okay, so what are we doing? Because if you do that, it's too late.
No, I completely agree with you. And that's one of my favorite phrases. Like I've talked about it for probably last 7 to 8 years. Draft with a plan. NFL teams draft with no matter who you're selecting. Know what you're going to do with this young man once you get him into your facility and you get to rookie camp. You shouldn't be trying to devise the plan in rookie camp. You want to have the plan ready so now he can develop into the plan, learn the plan, and execute the plan. Once you get to preseason, he should know exactly what you guys want to do with him. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing. I remember the comment about Richard Sherman calling him bland, and I never really felt that way. I felt like he's a good route runner. The release package has grown, and with that athletic skill set, right? Like it's so tantalizing to seeing him as a playmaking wide receiver. And I understand why, like for me, I look at like with his man coverage ability, but then with teams playing so much more zone and his ability to bait wide receivers and quarterbacks into those compromising, it's insane. I don't know if I've ever in the last 5 to 10 years in the draft at cornerback, I don't think we've seen a corner with the ball skills of a Travis Hunter. Like the ability to play high-low as a curl or flat defender, right? You got a smash concept, you got a curl, you got the slot run in the corner. And for him to play it so perfectly, make you think one is open while the other isn't. And essentially, neither one of them are open. If you throw the high, he's going to go up and get it. If you throw the low, he's going to make that diving interception that he's made time and time again. His ball skills are insane. I think that's the main reason why NFL decision makers are so excited about him as a corner, because not only can he cover, but he is dangerous if you target him, especially because of the fact that he could take the ball away. I can't remember which game it was. He didn't pick it off, but he nearly did. And he went up above the actual receiver and just almost brought the ball down. And I was just like, his leaping ability is unreal.
Yeah. And honestly, it's hard to say because he does it. It feels like every game. I think my favorite, there's 2 interceptions that really stand out to me. One of them was against UCF. They're in zone, like you were talking about. And KJ Jefferson, like, honestly, it looks like a throw where, like, me, the average person, I'm like, I can make that throw, right? It's just a little toss out to the flat. The tight end's wide open by himself, no one within 10 yards. And then all of a sudden, someone comes diving across the screen, and it's Travis Hunter. And then there's another one, TCU, which is his first Colorado game. And I think this was like the introduction to Travis Hunter to all of college football in a way, because not everyone was dialed into Jackson State football. I know a lot of people watched the Cricket Bowl, which was his final game, but that was like his first introduction to college football. And Chandler Morris, bless his heart, he kept throwing it at Travis Hunter. And I think we were all gathering that, like, this is going to end up bad. Well, that's one of the most iconic plays. He dives across the receiver, and in a play that looked like it was almost a back shoulder throw, it almost looked like it was more favorable for Travis Hunter somehow, which is saying something. So he's got all the ball skills. At receiver, I just love how elusive he is, and so I always gravitate to him as a receiver because he reminds me of James Harden. He loves a good step back. He loves a good jump cut, right? Where he's just he seems impossible to tackle in open space. I'd rather not. Like, he seems like he'll be one of those guys in like 10 years from now where it's like, would you rather try to tackle Derrick Henry one-on-one or try to chase down Travis Hunter in open space? I'd probably take Derrick Henry just because I know I'm going to at least get a hand on him. Obviously, he's going to send me to the depths of wherever, but at least with Travis, I'm not going to touch him. Like, Travis Hunter just poses such a tough question for NFL teams, and I think, like you said, they're going to have to be prepared. I think teams are also going to have to be prepared for Deion Sanders and his involvement. Is it going to be a lot? Is it going to be a little? Does he care? Does he not? It's hard to tell, but we're going to talk about that when we come back. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. I love me a good over-under. I love a touchdown bet. I feel like Derrick Henry is usually a lock for the Ravens, right? They get into that goal line situation. Who else would you hand it to but King Henry? So just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and that's FanDuel.com for your chance for $250 in bonus bets and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Okay, me and Damian are talking about Deion Sanders' involvement with Travis Hunter, with Shedeur Sanders. I think it's kind of attempted to be covered up as of late, where it's like he'll let him go wherever. I think that kind of feels like the vibes now. But he did say, I think a few months ago, that it would be an Eli situation if there were certain teams that tried to draft them. So how involved, and it doesn't have to be in public. And I think that's where people are expecting it. I don't think it's going to be in public, right? I don't think he's going to be like, I don't want X team to draft my son because they suck at developing quarterbacks. But I wouldn't be surprised if behind the scenes he's strongholding the GM and going, hey, we're not going to go there. So how involved do you think Deion Sanders is going to be in Shedeur's draft process and Travis's draft process as well?
I think with Shedeur, I think kind of what you alluded to, it might be some conversations behind closed doors and saying, listen, like, you don't have a great track record, right? Like, for example, the Chicago Bears, if they were looking to draft a Shedeur Sanders, he'd probably say absolutely not. Like, he would probably say absolutely not because they have failed quarterbacks time and time again. They're failing Caleb Williams right now. They failed Justin Fields. They failed numerous, Mitchell Trubisky. Like, they have not been a good franchise in terms of developing quarterbacks. So I think that is there's going to be conversations behind the scenes, right? Like, this is a Hall of Fame player who knows a lot of these GMs and owners, and it's going to be very interesting interaction with them. I think I was talking to someone in the league, and it's like, one of the scouts is like, some of these teams, for what he heard, like, they were a little worried about him trying to be LeVar Ball and being very loud and boisterous. And I'm like, I feel like Coach Prime is a very shrewd operator, and he's very calculated. And I don't think
it reminds me of LeBron in that sense, where like if LeBron James says, we just can't shoot, we need someone who can shoot. That means LeBron is going to tell the GM, hey, go trade for someone who can shoot some threes.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, I think we need some shooters. And it was like, okay, well, let's look at the trade market. Let's see who's available and what assets we have and make sure LeBron has what he needs. And I think it's that type of situation where he's very shrewd in terms of Coach Prime. What he has done has been smart, and people don't like it, but what he did was bring eyes to the program. He brought eyes to Shedeur. He brought eyes to Travis Hunter, talking about them the way that he did. And I remember him doing the post-game press conference. He said, listen, man, like, you guys take your hit for me out on these players. Don't do that. That's not okay. But he does a good job of marketing and promoting. And it's just like, hey, like a fight promoter, right?
Yeah.
You got to make sure that everybody knows that this fight is happening, or the fighters that are in this that's going to step into the ring, that they are the best in the world. And he does a good job of that. That's what a coach is supposed to do. That's what coaches do. People don't know this, but that's what coaches do during the NFL draft process. When scouts come to the college facilities and they're talking to the coach is telling them, yeah, this guy's a hard worker. This guy studies this, that, and the third. Or if it's vice versa, and it's listen, love him. He was not the greatest student of the game. He didn't put the same type of work in off the field. Like, they're going to be honest with you, honest with the scouts, so the scouts can take those notes back to their GMs and say, listen, now you have to make the calculated decision. So I think he's going to be involved, but I don't think it's going to be to the extent that people are expecting. People are expecting Coach Prime to get in front of a microphone and blast the NFL teams and say, these teams stay away from my son and Travis. No, I think what he did was when he made that statement before, it was more of a marketing thing. It was more of, hey, you guys already don't like me. I'll give you more of a reason not to like me. Watch us ball out. Watch me prove you wrong. Watch my team go out here and make the plays that they're going to make, and we're going to get to a bowl game. People before the season thought they were going to win 3 games. Those people are quiet now. You know what I mean? Or the goalpost shifted. Well, they didn't win the Big 12. Well, you thought the ceiling was 3 games. You know, so it's like, I think that's more so how he's going to handle it with Shedeur. With Travis, I think it's more so going to be based off of how teams interact with Travis. I always go back to Johnny Wilson, the 6'7" wide receiver from Florida State last year. Most teams want him to play tight end, and people wonder why he fell to day 3, because he didn't want to play tight end. Like, so it's like, yeah, okay, you don't want to play tight end, we're not going to draft you. It was like, that's fine, somebody will. So I think it's going to be a situation of, okay, we have the conversation with the teams. How do they want to go about it? If they want you to play corner, have that conversation behind closed doors. Hey, coach, I'm telling you right now, he's going to take care of his body. He works hard. He's going to speak. He can speak to the work ethic of Travis and say, listen, you won't have to worry about him getting injured if you do allow him to play both sides of the ball. He can be the first main vouch for Travis in that regard. I just don't think it's going to be some negative world tour in front of a mic that people are expecting it to be.
And then before we go, I have 2 more questions before we go. One, his other son, Shiloh, safety, also is going to be in the draft. He's six-year senior. Do you think there's any sort of maybe behind the scenes push for hey, if you draft Shedeur, can you spend a 7th on Shiloh? Or do you think he just kind of lets it take its course?
Of course, he's a supportive dad, so I think he might, he might pull a LeBron, and you know how LeBron made sure Bronny got drafted late in the 2nd round, before everybody made a whole, mess of it all. I could see him, just telling him hey, day 3, take a swing on him. He's going to be a leader in your locker room. He's going to play special teams. He's going to do what, again, a supportive father is going to do, but also a supportive coach, and tell an NFL franchise why they should take a flyer on him, because it's 3 phases to football. It's not just offense and defense. You're going to need those core special teams guys. And I think Deion Sanders can be that also, while giving you some rotational safety. If you go to 3 safety looks, he can be that 3rd safety off the bench for you, kind of play that type of role and help you out on your defense.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with Shiloh, because I think a lot of people, he seems a little forgotten in the process. Obviously, safety is not as sexy as a position as quarterback, and he's not a 2-way star. And so I do think it's interesting. I have a little theory that the team that drafts Shedeur, they're either going to draft Shiloh, or if he goes undrafted, I think he'll get a rookie mini camp invite. And I think it'll be like not a favor, but kind of a, hey, we want to make sure that you feel comfortable for Shedeur. Final question. What do you think the ceiling and floor is for each Travis and Shedeur? Like ceiling for both number 1 pick, floor, where would you put it?
I think ceiling for Shedeur off the rip is number one overall pick. Number one overall pick to for a team that needs a quarterback. And the top two teams right now need quarterbacks badly. They both have lost 9 and 10 games in a row so far, so they need quarterback help. And I think the floor for him does not go past pick 7, honestly. And that's Cleveland. Like I don't think he gets out of the top. I don't think he gets out of the top 5 at all. But I definitely don't think he gets out of the top 7. Or top 10 at all. I think Shedeur is it's in that between 1 and 7, probably 1 and 5, because I can see a team with New England at 3. I can see a team trying to trade up to the 3rd spot. If the Giants say, hey, we don't want a quarterback, and let's say Cam's going off the board at 1, I can see a team saying, like the Cleveland Browns, say, let's just trade up to 3. Let's go get Shedeur and have a room of Shedeur. Yeah, you got Watson, but you also have Jameis Winston to kind of be that mentor to him in the NFL and let him see what a pro quarterback looks like and how a pro quarterback prepares and things of that nature. For Travis, same kind of, first overall, it depends on if the team can get a trade, but realistically, I think his ceiling is pick 3, that 3rd overall pick. Whether it's New England, Jacksonville, I can see Carolina really contemplating adding him as a potential receiver with his ability in the quick game to help a Bryce Young out and bring that dynamic run after catch ability. I think his floor, it's like ceiling 3, floor 10, like New Orleans. I don't think he falls anywhere out of the top 10. This is not a quarterback class that you're gonna reach for Jalen Milroe or Carson Beck top 10 the way that these guys have played this year and say, listen, I'm going to pass up on the best player in college football for a quarterback. If it's not Shedeur or Cam Ward, I'll see you on day 2.
Yeah. I think that'd be an interesting sort of which quarterback are they going to reach on. I know there's going to be a late round quarterback taken.
Absolutely.
I think it could be Quinn Ewers, obviously, because he has the playoff to kind of build his stock. But it'll be interesting to see who sort of sneaks their way in there. Damian, I appreciate you for joining. Tell the people where they could find you, what you're working on, so that way they could keep up with your coverage.
Oh, for sure. On Twitter /X DP_NFL. I also created a Blue Sky account. Type in DP_NFL over there or DP NFL over there. You can 5 days a week. And then we're getting close to the end of the season or end of the year. It's going to be draft season. Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Go subscribe, hit automatic downloads, and check it out 5 days a week. Me and Keith Sanchez, former coach for the 2019 LSU National Championship Tigers. He's scouting director over at the Draft Network. And, of course, Bleacher Report. I do all offensive skill positions, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. Scouting reports over there. I also do live streaming over there. And my last thing, I have my own YouTube channel where I break down tape. We call the Scouting Room, so go subscribe and check that out. I'm actually going to be working on a Shedeur and Travis Hunter breakdown in the next couple weeks before the season is out. So before the year is out. So stay tuned for all of that.
Yeah, he's a busy man. It's his busy season. It's coming up. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, share it with a friend, share it with your mom, share it with your dog. I don't care. Just share it with someone so that way we can continue to grow the community. I hope all of you have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow.